us out. We found a road eventually. Began walking along it. Just our luck, fucking Humvee rolls up on us. Two MPs step out to see what the fuck is going on. Don't bother aiming weapons at us, could tell we had been through hell. Get taken back to army base. Had to give full statement about what went on. Uneasy looks from officers. Parents show up. No charges being filed. We were just some kids that went camping and let our imaginations go wild. M1 woke up in a hospital screaming his lungs out, still thinking he was in the woods. Parents were confused, but happy to see us alive. Ask me what happened. Make up something about it being a big dog. Seems to work well enough, we all say the same thing to our parents. They all buy it. We all refuse to go into those woods. My house is closest to them. Can occasionally hear the screech on the wind at the dead of night. Whatever that attacked us that night, is still out there. And wants me to know it. Every night I close my eyes I remember this night. My friends have long since moved away, and gone on to bigger and better things. We all remember what happened that night. I wish I could say it was a dog, really I do. I have tried to convince myself it was some woodland predator and in no way some abomination. But every time I try to do /k/. I'm gonna dump one of my stories for y'all. I'll leave it up to you to believe it or not after your own mind, but for me this was the biggest nope moment I had. Some background first. This happened in Boden, Sweden, a couple of years back. Baden is known for one thing, and one thing only, military forts. It was long thought of as the key to northern Sweden, the first thing the Soviets would roflo stomp if they ever came charging. Those forts were secret as fuck in the past, and for some time one of the forts were used to store a large part of Sweden's gold reserve. However, after the Cold War ended, the forts became even more obsolete than before and were decommissioned. Anyway, the story. B21. Hang out with female friend that is more like the sister I never had. We are both scouts and have been for as long as we both can remember. Bored as fuck. Decide to go recon a cool campsite for the coming Halloween scare hike. My friend, let's call her H, knows a lot of cool old forts and trench systems. Drive off in my car, which was perfectly fine and had gone through inspection without a hitch only a week before. Decide to check out the nearest old fort. Park the car a couple of 100 meters from the old fort because someone had placed biggest stones as a crude roadblock on the dirt road leading to the fort. The fort is dug like Pick related, with the exception that only there is no road up to the fort. Pick is another fort near Boden. Walk/climb up to the fort from the right slope that's somewhat accessible. Any thoughts of recon for a campsite has soon been replaced by thoughts of exploration. It's about midday but the daylight is waning fast due to northern Sweden. Luckily we brought flashlights. Eventually locate a hole in the fence big enough for us to get through. Explore a bit, though all doors are locked either with massive padlocks or internal locks. Start to head back the way we came in. A thick door that we both were sure had been closed before is now slightly ajar. Not by much, just a couple of centimeters. We haven't heard any door opening or anyone else being here. This is a door about 1,5 m wide, 2,5 m tall and made entirely out of 1 decimeter of solid steel. And on rusty hinges it looks like. Remember that H told me before that the local wildlife seems to shun this place. 000K, getting a real bad feeling about this right now. We both keep our distance but our curiosity gets the better of us. We both try to peek inside. Pitch fucking dark inside. Except I sense something move inside. Don't really know how I know this, but I just get a very weird feeling. Like something is staring at us from inside. We both aim our flashlight and thumb them on. Flashlights both give a short burst of light and then go dead as doorknobs. And we put in new batteries before we went out. In the short picosecond we have light I managed to get a glimpse of something. A gray blackish humanoid shade that looks more like a beast than a man. At the same time something in my mind pushes the primal predator panic button. Nope 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 N00000PE. I'm not sure what H saw, but she is white as a flicking sheet and as damn near panic as I have ever seen her. We both scramble out without saying a word to each other. We both must have broken the record on 200 panic sprint. Don't know about H, but I felt a something. Can't describe it more than a terrible sense of hate following us. Get in the car. I turn the key. Nothing. Try to turn it again, the car won't start, the headlight won't even turn on. Eventually, after turning the key frantically again and again for the longest 2 minutes in my life, the car starts. We get the hell out of Dodge with gravel flying everywhere as I floor it until we get back on the main road. Later learned through other friends that there has been other similar occurrences there, some hearing a faint but very much mocking laughter coming from beyond that door and others feeling watched when they are near the fort. The door have never been ajar before or after though, and it has always been locked when anyone has tried to open it. Has been 5 years since that happened. I can add that neither H nor I have been back inside the fence of that place. B13. Living in Mirandela, a small city in the north of Portugal, PIC related. Starting my 9th grade, decent circle of friends but nonetheless a bit of a loner most of the time. Notice a new girl joined the class. Cute brunette, also seemingly around my age, had a bit of a goth style to her, not to the point of piercings and black nails, but almost always dressed in black. Get paired up with her for a project on the first week and end up chatting, find out we have the same taste in music and movies and inevitably become good friends. She was fatherless, moved into town with her mother recently. Ridiculously intelligent, far more than you'd expect from anyone her age, was even enthusiastic about philosophy and got me into reading Schopenhauer and Sartre, at fucking 13. Was also a loner, didn't hang out with many colleagues other than me, mainly because her long existentialist reflections seemed to bore everyone. Eventually became really close friends, almost platonic lovers. One day she invites me to her house for dinner. Actually a little surprised by how long it took to get invited to her place, given how often she dropped by mine. That evening we meet by the school and she leads the way. We start heading out of town. Half an hour later, we're walking around tall grass fields and dirt paths as night settles in. Can't help but feel a little scared since I don't want to be out in complete darkness. She tells me not to worry and kindly holds my hand. After maybe another half hour, with almost total darkness setting in, we follow a dirt road into a forested area. Fear is really kicking in. About to beg her to go back when she suddenly says we arrived. In front of us is an old, large, and degraded house, heavily obscured by darkness but nonetheless being a striking sight. Not exactly a mansion but still really large, with 3 floors and an old Alfa Romeo parked on the driveway. The door is unlocked, we walk. The interior actually looks decent, lots of old furniture but all of it relatively well taken care of, unlike the torn up exterior implied. My fear turns into curiosity, can't help but feel intrigued by the house and bombard her with questions about it. The best she can say is that her mother got it as heritage from a distant uncle a few years ago and only now felt it would be fitting to move here. After showing me the bottom floor around, proudly displaying her collection of LPS and VHS in the living room, the 80s Philips VHS player was the closest to a modern apparatus in the entire house, and her packed up and thoroughly organized bookshelves in the office, she takes me to the dining room. Asks me to wait there while she goes upstairs to call her mother for dinner. As she leaves the room I contemplate how silent the house is. The only audible sounds being the tremulous treetops in the surrounding woods exposed to the wind and the light hum of an electricity generator probably around the back. Somewhat confused with the whole situation, but far more intrigued by my friend and her mother's eccentric lifestyle than scared by it. In a moment she comes back, tells me her mother is working in the attic and wants us to have dinner there. Now I'm really confused. What is her mother working on the attic and why can't she come down for dinner instead? She explains her mother is a dressmaker and uses the attic as her studio, and as such, spends the entire day there and doesn't want to interrupt her work to go downstairs. Unsatisfactory explanation, but alright. As we get to the upper floor I notice it is in significantly poorer condition than the lower. The walls of the corridor we pass by look slightly dirty and much of the wooden floor covering seems to be torn off. She tells me not to mind that division and explains her mother is still on the process of refurnishing the house. The attic stairs are at the end of the corridor. We climb them up. The attic is an ample but poorly lit space. I am assaulted by a labyrinth of dresses hanged in washing lines spread across the attic, most of them looking ripped and dirty, definitely unlike anything a dressmaker would be producing. A disgusting smell reeked across the room. I can't even properly describe how unpleasant it was. She just calmly makes her way through all the clothes. I try to keep up while covering my face in disgust. "Hey, Mom. Here's the friend I told you about," I hear my friend say. Finally come out at the end of the mess. Regret doing so in the following second as my brain processes what I'm suddenly looking at. Right in front of me is a morbidly decaying corpse, with almost more bone visible than the horrendous rotting flesh, sitting on a chair in front of a small table with a lit candle over it. I can't even properly react to what the fuck is this goddamn thing. Now that we're all together, we can finally have dinner at last, my friend says, seemingly talking to the rotting cadaver before her. Nope. Nope. Nope the fuck out. Heart pounding faster than it ever did in my entire life, run through the labyrinth of dresses and quickly head downstairs, rush to the front door of the house as fast as I can. She starts screaming angrily at me. I have no idea of what the fuck she's saying and I don't even take the time to listen to it. Smash through the front door. Run away into the surrounding forest with no idea of where to go. The only thing I can make out of all her spontaneous screaming is an almost tear-jerk "Don't leave me" as I rush into the woods. Run through the pitch-black forest for what seemed like torturous hours for my young teenager brain, cry until I'm out of tears to pour out. End up finding a highway. The first driver that passes by and notices me on the side of the road miraculously stops and gives me a ride back into town. Get back home. Parents are surprised to hear me arrive close to midnight but immediately understand something happened as soon as they see me walk into the living room covered in sweat, with my clothes torn up from running through the middle of the woods. Tell them the shit I went through. Needless to say, they were skeptical about such an absurd sounding story, but nonetheless presumed that, was I telling the truth, I must have been the victim of a prank from her, eventually involving a false corpse dummy or similar. Decide they are going to talk with our teachers to track down her parents and shed some light on her inappropriate attitude. They go to the school the next day to clear it up, far too damn scared to leave my house. And at the same time I was terrified to be in my house given she knew where I lived, invited over the beefiest friend I had at the time under the paranoia of her showing up. Parents came back. Told me she was registered into school by her mother during early summer vacations. The school management wasn't able to contact the mother ever since, no phone calls were picked up and, given no one understood where her address was located, all letters were returned to sender. Give how many problems the lack of contact with her mother was causing, they tried calling the girl to clear everything up on that exact moment, but she was missing that day. And so was she missing throughout the rest of the week. And so was she missing throughout the next week. And so was she missing throughout the rest of the month.